This is not how I imagined the second to final chapter of this series going down. I did not even imagine that the series would be ending for at least another couple of chapters. Considering that the author had been dropping in potential plot threads for the last 20 or so chapters, it seems odd to just drop it here. But from what I have learned about this author from hearing other people talk about him, this is apparently not too strange for him. He is just the sort of person who can build up many relevant ideas and then just drop them all at once. To be honest, I am a bit sad with this ending and disappointed, but I am not angry. I would much rather the author ends this his way, rather than pushing himself to keep churning out chapters just because the series is popular, and the series just ends up going down the loo because of it. And while this ending is not what any of us imagined, and if you did, congratulations. You are on the same wavelength as this author. Not sure if that is a good thing, but whatever. This is at the very least, an ending which does not feel rushed to completion, feeling natural in its conclusion even if we are not getting all the answers we would like. After rereading this chapter a couple of times, I can say that I like it. It shows the grow and change in Denji character in a beautiful but solemn manner. It also shows what sort of person Makima is at the core of her being, how despite everything she said up to that point, in the end her goals were not as noble or as pure as she would have liked to believe. But enough pussyfooting around, let's get into this. I am the Anonymous Weeb, and this is my review of Chapter 96 of Chainsaw Man. So, the chapter starts off with Makima taking out a pack of cigarettes from one of the many corpses that lay around her, after the battle she just had with Denji. The packet has "High Fight" written on it. I do not know if that is a reference to something, maybe the fight that just occurred or something else, but it's there, and for some reason, watching Makima take out a single cigarette and light it only to take a single long drag reminds me so much of Aki. And because of that it immediately reminds me of Himeno, who got Aki smoking in the first place. This scene makes me realize just how smoking is used in this series in such an artful way, showing just how tired or exhausted someone is, how it's not usually just used as a gimmick or a character trait but to express something about the character's current state. Then Makima starts coughing, resting herself down next to one of the crosses as we get to see the remains of Denji's body. Remember that, it is going to be important. We get to see Denji's body, laid out as a corpse on the ground, seemingly ripped in two, or at least having a large chunk ripped out of his side, exposing his intestines and other internals, as it lays in a pool of blood. As Makima puts out the cigarette, she raises up her other hand to look at the heart, at what is essentially Pochita's current form. She starts to talk to it, acting like this small fleshy blob is in fact the real Chainsaw Man. But that is the thing. This is not the Chainsaw Man, this is not anything but a fleshy lump. How is this thing more Chainsaw Man than Denji was? At this point, I feel like Makima has just up and lost her mind, both because of the exhaustion of fighting Denji and having to fight for herself for the first time in a long time, and from the joy she feels of finally being able to hold the core of Chainsaw Man in her hand. She starts to talk to the fleshy lump, saying that this is the second time she managed to defeat the Chainsaw Devil. Saying that, now he belongs to her and that they will be together forever. Saying that they can eat lots together, they can sleep together, and that they can lead a happy life together. Makima at this moment is giving off major Yandere vibes. She is, at least to me, saying that she did all this, just so she could live a peaceful life with the Chainsaw Man. She destroyed countless lives, committed countless atrocities, and have done some seriously irredeemable things, all because of her. Well, I struggle to say love for the Chainsaw Man, more like obsession with the Chainsaw Man. All that stuff about using the Chainsaw Man to eliminate the bad things in the world, while not necessarily lying when looked at with this version of Makima in mind, those thoughts turn out to be a lot less benevolent and seem like the ideas of a madwoman, someone who does not want anything to disturb her peaceful life with her beloved. While at the same time she gets to indulge in whatever corruption she likes. It reminds me of how Gira from JoJo's Bizarre Adventurers wanted to live a peaceful life, but it was in his nature to kill. Here, Makima wants a peaceful life with the Chainsaw Man, but it seems to be in her nature, to control and to subjugate everything around her, removing it is free will so that it can only obey her. Considering what happens next, I must wonder if Makima is truthful about her feelings. Does she really consider Denji to be beneath her? Does she, even after, as she puts it, defeating the Chainsaw Man twice, not consider him to be inferior to her? Does she still think the Chainsaw Man is her equal, even when he exists in this form? I really do not know what to say about that, other than Makima's values are something which I do not think anyone should try to understand. She is supposed to be inhuman in her thoughts, and this to me perfectly shows that. While Makima is snuggling up to the bloody, fleshy, blob of Pochita, someone dressed in a black suit stands up behind her, standing up from amongst the corpses. At first, I mistakenly believed this to be Kishibe coming to give Denji a hand, or what would be far more likely, to just finish off Makima while she was distracted. This person, who hid amongst the many corpses and soldiers of Makima who came to accompany her with this fight, begins to slowly approach Makima as she relaxes, fully assured in her victory. And when she finally notices their approach, it is already too late. The person is Denji, wielding an actual chainsaw which reflects Makima's face in it. A callback to one of the earlier colored art pieces for this series, who, if I remember to edit in, you will see on screen now. Makima is taken as back by this as I was when I first read this, because as said before we see Denji's corpse on the ground in front of her. However, on a reread through there is at least one hint to the fact that the corpse might not be the real Denji. That being, despite having the Chainsaw Devil fully removed and disconnected from him, his body did not revert to a human, instead just remaining in the chainsaw hybrid form. I'd assume, like how the Denji we see in this panel isn't in his chainsaw hybrid form, once the heart is removed, he'll be forced into a human form. In her surprise, Makima only has enough time to get to her feet before she is cut open by the chainsaw, straight across her chest and spraying blood everywhere. Makima drops to her knees as the blood continues to spray out from her, dropping Pochita on the floor. As her face shows that she is not able to comprehend what is happening, she looks to the corpse of the chainsaw hybrid on the floor and then at Denji, who stands over her, saying how he is glad that she finally let her guard down, and that he will be taking Pochita back now. Leaning forwards, he picks up the heart from the ground and shoves it back into the hole in his chest. As he does so, he comments that it was dangerous and that he had to use up almost all the blood he got from power. Makima is bleeding out, her wounds don't seem to be healing almost at all, and this is leaving her completely stunned, asking him how this is even possible. The explanation we get is a bit vague, but just stay with me for a second. Apparently the Denji Makima had been fighting up till that point had been the Pochita he ripped out of his chest, saying he had a vague memory of being able to fight like that. Overlaid with his words, we have a flashback to the time Makima shot the Chainsaw Man into space, and how he ripped out his own heart to launch himself back to Earth. This can either mean that the Denji that Makima killed previous was made from the flesh and heart from that time, which seems somewhat unlikely seeing as how Denji took it back into himself, or more likely, Denji at some point implanted the heart of Pochita into a corpse which could act as a sort of puppet for Pochita to control while Denji moved independently. It is not a concrete explanation, but considering the crazy things we have seen the devils in this series do, the Chainsaw Devil especially, I am willing to go with this and just accept that this is just another weird thing that he can do. So as the blood keeps flowing from Makima's wounds, Denji explains that her healing is slowing down, because the chainsaw he cut her with is made from Power's blood, meaning it is messing up her insides. Because at her core, Power is the blood devil, and if you get infected by her blood you're pretty much done, in most cases. And even if her contract with the Prime Minister prevents her from dying, she still needs blood to heal like any other devil, and with her blood messed up not even her contract can stop her from being injured. Makima seems to bite her lip, saying that it cannot end like this, and Denji agrees with her, he can't kill her like this. As Makima looks up at him, lurching forwards due to her wounds, her face momentarily filling with hope, but that is quickly shattered by the arrival of a van. A van which Kishibe is driving, a van which is them to pick up both Makima and Denji. So, this was planned out beforehand and not just Denji going off on his own. Glad to see that he was not just going off half-cocked without using the aid which was available to him. Denji then apologizes to Makima before presumably shoving the chainsaw into her face. As the scene cuts away to a view of the city, people just living their ordinary daily lives before it transitions to night and we find ourselves at an apartment building. Kishibe complains that his back hurts, before asking Denji if he is ready. Denji, now in a fresh set of clean clothes, and any wounds he might have had having been dealt with, tells him that he is in fact ready for whatever he is doing. Kishibe tells Denji that people are still being sacrificed as they speak and that he would prefer if they could finish this quickly, but at the same time he understands that it is a biological process so they cannot rush it. Denji responds that he will take his time. So Makima is dying over and over again but isn't able to regenerate like she used to because of the effect of Power's blood, or at least that is the way it seems, from the way Kishibe put it. Kishibe then tells Denji that despite everything he does not believe the method he is planning on using will kill Makima, and that he should steel himself for death should it fail. Denji tells him he came up with the plan and that he has already resolved himself. Well, if he didn't think it would work, then he shouldn't have let him go through with it, but it's too late for regrets now. If you do not want to die Kishibe, you had better pray that this plan of Denji's works. As Kishibe turns to leave, he tells Denji he will be dropping by again if he survives and that of all the people he has met that Denji is the most suited to being a devil hunter. I wonder what he means by that. Does he mean that Denji is the most suited because he is Chainsaw Man? Or because he has lost almost everything, and now has next to nothing to lose? Regardless, Denji seems to be unresponsive to Kishibe's comment before going into the apartment's kitchen, with a fridge that was full of boxes. Taking out one of them he begins cooking, speaking to Makima about how despite everything he still likes her, but those that died cannot forgive her, so he will bear the burden of her sins along with her. Seems like his feelings for her were not as easily discarded as it seemed when fighting her, but in the end, he has enough maturity and intelligence to know that she couldn't just be left alone anymore. He comments about how he could not think about how to do that, because even a double suicide would not kill her. So, he concluded that they should become one. He begins eating, starting with miso soup, and then moving on to meat and vegetable stir-fry. The final scene of the chapter is Denji sitting alone in his apartment, commenting about this is how Makima tastes. Yes, Denji cut up Makima into small pieces and is eating her as part of his diet. Kind of gruesome, but given Denji's character, given Makima's abilities and what we know of the Chainsaw Devil's powers, we know that this was the only way it could really go down. But what do you guys think? Are you satisfied with this? Let me know what you think in the comments down below.